Oh, you're a little bit quiet.
Uh-oh. How about now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so part of it you can see um, without me having to do this, but I gotta disable some of the code real quick. I don't know if you can see that part on the screen. Um, let's see. Okay, so if I get rid of the border limits in the code, and go ahead and disable them, this might take a minute. My computer's insanely slow right now.
Okay. I don't see any code. I just see the hierarchy, the scene, and the game.
Yeah, it asks what screen to share,
Okay.
and so it's, I guess, I only clicked on Unity, so that's the only thing it's showing. So without the border limits, you can still see the jitterness in the camera, like in the middle of the map. And without the border limits, you can see it like where the borders are. So let's see if it'll pull up real quick. All right, so the what was that? Yeah, the zoom right here, the max height is supposed to be set at 900. And so whenever you go into here, I don't know if you had something else that was like giving it some kind of addition, but it kept landing at like 946, I think it was. Um, I believe it's supposed to stay at 900 for one, and it just gets like really, really out of hand, like really quick when you get to the edges.
Can you get it to do it?
Do what?
Can you get it to do it?
Yeah, it's trying to play right now. It's taking forever.
Oh, okay.
Even the loading bar is slow.
I can't read what that little box says. Is that the loading box?
Yeah, you'll be able to see it in a minute when it goes full screen. If it goes full screen. Man, that is just taking forever right now. There we go. All right, so when you go to zoom up, you can see all this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got the camera rotation like that now. And so when you go over like towards the center, you'll see a little bit, and it's generally like in these areas for some reason. And I'll show you that here in a second. But once you get over here, because I'm at the maximum height right now on the camera, and if I just keep on the scroll wheel, as soon as I get over here, you'll see it just jump like crazy, and it exceeds the maximum height of what the camera is supposed to be set at. And so it just like right now it's locked, but here it just goes nuts. And that's fine if we have the limit set up. However, if we have a bigger size map, there's going to be issues with that. And I don't know what in the code is allowing it to do that. Because like here, you see how it kind of it'll jitter up and down at some points. I gotta find it. There we go. So it violates the maximum height, and it jumps up and down here. Like, you see that?
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what's up with that, and I suppose it's not that big of a deal right now. But if we're going to be using that code later on, it could be kind of troublesome. And I was trying to find out if it was something that I had written over his, or if it was the original camera script that had that issue.
So it was not doing that before then?
I don't know. It was something that I noticed. I was just kind of testing things, making sure nothing like had issues together. So I was like moving the camera around and stuff. And I happened to be over here setting up the border limits. And whenever I went over there, it just like went all nuts. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. It's just like there's a certain point that reaches outside of the map where it just goes insane.
It does get way out there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it'll go too far. Like the clipping plane right here, which it doesn't need to be set to show that visible, because I don't see a reason why you would be that high above it. But the reason it disappears is not because it's so small necessarily, but because the clipping plane. And that other problem we were having where it looked like this kind of like violated the mesh. That issue, that's from the clipping, and that got resolved too. So you can go all the way back here now, and if the border limits were set up, obviously, it would be probably before this point, but the clipping's all gone right there. But the biggest issues I was seeing really was the perimeter, because it jumps off. And so if we do a bigger map with that same script, it's going to have issues when you go to, the point around it. If that makes sense.
Let's hope it makes more sense to them than it does to me.
Well, there's probably just something weird in the code that is allowing something to happen when it's not supposed to. And
Yeah. No, that part I get,
yeah.
but I'm not a programmer, so. All right, good deal. They ought to be able to tell.
Yeah.
Looking at Robert thinks he'll be able to replicate it, so.
Yeah.
Then we can see if it's your version or if it was already there.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, it'd be easier to fix if it was mine because I know what I just did, so.
Right. Narrow it down some bit.
Yeah.
Well, you still don't have anyone else in here. So, do you think you'd be able to do that tank animation?
The turret?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could.
Okay.
Are we doing the look at method for that?
I believe that is what he had chosen to go with. He made notes on. He made notes on the agenda itself for what he had and had not gotten done. put a bunch of notes in here and attached a PDF of the
Okay.
different things that he was trying to do.
Did we ever get the tracks done?
No, the tracks have not been done.
And Daniel's working on that, right?
He had started out working on the turret,
Mhm.
and once he started working on that, he realized that that was not going to be his forte, so he went ahead and gave it back. So I figured since you two had been discussing it previously, he might want a shot at
Okay.
it. So
Do you know if the turret's actually a separate piece in the tank or no?
I believe that it is.
Okay. That should make it like way easier to do.
Yeah. No, he went back and separated everything when we first started talking about animation. Um, so it should be. I'm sure they'll be able to tell you anything if you ask them.
Yeah.
But he does have a lot of notes on here, so that would probably be the best place to start.
Okay.
He said that he had redone some of the moving pieces, like the wheels and such.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he was redoing those to separate them to help with the animating process.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if you'd like to crack at that one's open.
Yeah, I'll try it. I've done it a lot before. I just don't know cause y'all or who made the model?
Daniel made the model.
Did he use voxel for that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not really familiar with voxel. I just pretty much use Blender, so I don't know how similar they are.
I want to say it had to be imported into Blender because it goes through Blender before they put it in Unity.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be just fine then.
So yeah, it should. And if not, I mean, I'm sure. I think he was trying to do the animation in.
He was trying to what?
I think he was using Blender to do the animation.
Blender?
Maybe.
You can do it that way, but it'd probably take up more resources and more time to do that, though.
You know, it'd probably be better to just ask him. I'm just gonna ask. Oh, he's in here now. Yay.
Oh, sweet.
Can you hear us, Daniel? We don't hear you. Looks like he's unmuted.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't know how to look when. Oh, there's all the stuff.
Nope. Are you there, Daniel? Maybe we should. Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was Blender he was using.
No, that's what I thought, but I have been wrong before, so it's usually better to just ask. Hmm.
I think we probably need to find a way to determine.
Hello?
Oh,
Oh, hey.
All right.
there we go.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. But I think we might need to, like, in the future, find a way to determine, like, what should be, like, programmatically animated and what should be, like, animated in, like, Blender. That way we can, like, split the agendas up.
Okay. Well, we were going to split 3D animation out anyway. Right now, we're doing the animation agendas under 3D art, but we're going to split them out and have animation be its own thing.
Okay.
What would be the difference as far as determining which animation
Well, because
programming and which you would do?
like, the tank, if the turret's separated already, if you imported that model into Unity, I can actually just attach a script to it to animate it without actually animating anything. And so it's using, like, the physics engine or 3D space, depending on, to animate it.
Okay.
So it's completely reliant on Unity as a game engine to create that based off of the code you write. When, on the other hand, you can do, like, 2D or 3D animations in Blender. And you can also do that in Unity, but that's not really programming, because all the animations, they end up having to have scripts that tell them what to do and when to do it. So at some point, the animations will be passed up, like when they're finished, to the programmers anyway. But I think there's going to be kind of a median if we choose to animate some of them with programming.
Okay.
Because like the way the graphics are on the game, most of it, for the most part, I think can be programmed. I mean, you don't have to do it that way, but there's a huge portion that can be, because they're simple shapes, and especially if they're separated in pieces, you can definitely do that with programming.
So you'd be able to do that with more than the guns. You'd be able to do that with tires and such too, to make it look like they're rotating when they're moving and things like that.
Yeah, you can rotate it, move it, stuff like that. I mean, I don't believe there's a way you can, like, bend a mesh or, like, a model, like, say, a person's arm or whatever. But, like, for instance, if you wanted to rotate, like, a block head, like how the characters look, that is definitely doable with programming.
Okay.
So it can't really, like, contort the object, but it can move it, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I guess, like, maybe if we do split it up like that, if we decide to, I guess the determining factor might be if it's a simple, like, movement in 3D space, like a rotation or something like that, versus, like, a character's arm bending. I guess the simple movements would be programmed, the other ones would have to be animated.
And when you're doing animations in Blender, you use those bones.
Yes.
Will the programming not pick up those bones to let you bend the arm? Does that not count as separate?
That's getting into Mechanum, which we talked about, I think it was last Saturday,
Yeah.
which it's a little more complicated. It's not impossible, but it's kind of a mixture of all those things, the programming, animation, and the bones and all that.
Okay. Sounds like it's going to be a fun ride. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, just have a crack at it and see if one way works better than another and it's going to work consistently.
Okay.
And that would most likely be the way to go.
Yeah.
You don't need to make things any more difficult than they have to be. So yeah, Daniel, I opened up a lot of the 3D models now. So
I'm sorry, pardon?
I've opened up a lot more of the 3D model agendas.
Okay.
See plenty there to do.
All right. I'm finished with the RPG 29.
Awesome. Did you already turn that one in for review?
No, I forgot to put the markings on it, so I haven't turned it in yet.
Okay.
I have to do that real quick before.
So we went over your book, over the animation. Nobody else is here, so I don't feel like it's TV or any of that.
No one else is here, but who's here?
And
Just us three.
And Aaron and me.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, unless y'all have something else to go over, we ought to be good to go.
All right. No, I just wanted to I was like a couple minutes late, but so you might have said something, but I was just wanting to ask Aaron about okay, if you have a lot of objects like the wheels, do they need to be grouped in an empty object, or I mean,
So
what
that they can be, like, imported. Is that what you mean?
when when I set up their hierarchy in Blender, do those need to be in an empty object?
That depends, because if you parent them, I believe that changes some of the animation.
Okay, well, I won't do that then.
We can make a copy of the file and test it if you want to, and just kind of experiment.
I didn't know if you. I didn't think it would make any difference. It was basically just to keep the groups separate, because if they're all just parented to the main object, you know, they're. It seems like they should just be separated since they're.
Yeah.
But that's just to me. I don't know.
I know what you're saying, because it, like, when you join it, it thinks it's the same mesh, so it's like impossible to animate it. Is that what you're getting?
Well, no, I just it doesn't really matter because they're each they still have a hierarchy that reflects their pecking order, but no, I just wondered if maybe that was better, but I don't think it is, so never mind.
Well, what I would advise is you can always parent them, but it might be a little confusing to try to undo that. So,
Right. I'm trying. Yeah, I just wanted to make it less confusing.
yeah.
Maybe it just makes it more confusing.
Sometimes it seems to. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, if you want to experiment with it, and I don't know, we can troubleshoot it together and kind of figure out what works, what doesn't.
Sure, but I mean, if it's okay like it is, I don't know if you looked at either of those of the tank models.
I haven't opened the file, but I have seen them. Yes.
Okay, so right, so the right and left sets of wheels. That's fine like it is.
I believe it would be.
Okay.
See what we can do with it. If not, I'm sure we can find a workaround or something.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you have need me to do something on this end, it's no problem. I I'm basically trying to accommodate the next person in the line. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
hear you.
I didn't realize Mechanum was script writing.
It's not. I mean, you. It's weird. They have okay, like in programming world, um, basically they started replacing programming with like block programs or like nodes, stuff like that. Like the node editor in Blender, right?
Right.
It's kind of like that, where you like, except it's like order of operation. So instead of programming, this happens and at this rate, instead of all that crap, basically you're connecting the nodes together and it has like pre-written things.
Oh, okay. So basically, I'm kind of like copy pasting code in a way
Pretty much, yeah.
because each node. Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know how to code, but I do copy paste script and like select I can figure out what my command was out of like a script editor,
Yeah.
and then sometimes I can replace values or something like that. I didn't, but man, I tell you what, it's like uh-oh. And unfortunately, I looked at that last instead of
Yeah.
first, or else I would have known a lot sooner. That it was a little outside my wheelhouse.
Yeah, it still confuses me. I still don't know really everything about it, but um, as far as that goes, like kind of what I was mentioning earlier is programming for the most part for animation is generally for simple animations. If you have a complex animation, generally it's backwards where you're programming to smooth them together, if that makes sense.
Uh,
So
um,
it's not always like this, but basically, if the animation's complex, generally there's more coding. There's like simpler, easier coding like on the other end of it for like a simple animation. Because like for instance, to move the tank turret, it would only cost me like 2 lines of code to make it move the way we need to.
all right.
So that would be a lot quicker and a less pain in the ass, to be honest, than animating in Blender and then exporting all that.
Right. That
'Cause
I knew something was wrong. I was like, man.
yeah, you'd still have to, or like say I had to implement that animation, right? So if you made that animation in Blender for the turret, when we put that in, I'd still have to program it anyway, because something's got to tell it, what and when. And so we might as well just cut that short and just do the turret animation by the script, because that already tells it what and when, except it includes where. So it tells it where to be at.
Oh, okay. You mean you would program that like for the tank turret? Each piece just has one motion it can make. So for that, you would just write 2 lines of code.
For the most part, like you can see my screen, right? The Unity.
Is that what's up? Yeah, I have a screen up.
Okay. So this transform here, I don't know if you're familiar with this. This
No.
is basically the position of an object in 3D space.
Oh yeah. I know where that is.
So like like in Blender, X, Y, and Z like that. This is basically that. It's the position, rotation, and the scale of the object. So basically, you would create a look at method, and basically tell, say the turret, you would tell it to like say you're shooting an enemy. Let's say like this is an enemy right here. So you would like drag and drop that into the script and basically say follow that object, and then it would follow. Its rotation would change to where the position of that enemy is, if that makes sense. So you don't have to animate that part, but that would animate the turret by just doing that code.
Huh.
So if it's a simple like XYZ rotation or movement, like forward, back, left, right, stuff like that, that can be done very easily with programming, so we don't have to mess with the animations on those.
Okay.
I don't know if any of that makes sense.
Barely, you know, I can grasp the edges of it, you know.
It'd be a lot easier if I could like literally have something done. So why don't we do this? Why don't I go ahead and I'll try to get that agenda for the turret. I'll get it done and then show and tell and show basically what I'm talking about, so it's not so confusing to people that don't program.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
If you're doing a look at method, is that going to be something that becomes effective when you tell your tank to attack something, or is it going to automatically recognize an enemy unit and have the turret start following those units?
You don't just have to use the look at method. You could call others. For instance, like if you wanted to look at an object, you can write other code around it to say timing, speed, stuff like that. Like you could have it change from one to another, like say it kills an enemy and then it moves and rotates to the next one. You can also, I mean, you can complicate it as much as you want, really.
Well,
And
how's that going to function if, you know, there's 12 enemies on the screen? Is it going to just be bouncing back and forth going crazy because it doesn't know where to look?
well, it's if you were to animate the tank just for visual, it probably won't like literally make sense on screen if there's a bunch of like scattered things it's shooting at. You know what I mean?
So it's
'Cause
only
you're
going
like-
to activate the code when you tell the tank to attack something?
Yeah. Well, like it would make sense, for instance, if you wanted to do an animation file to do like for instance the recoil. If you did like the recoil of it, you could animate that, for instance, but like where it's pointing at is basically just it's a rotation in 3D space, and so you could have it literally move towards whatever you tell it to, or you can specify a certain location. So if there's a bunch of enemies, it could literally point directly towards them and move from one to the other. Whereas if you animated the tank turret shooting just like blindly, like let's say you animate it shooting like here, here, and then here. Well, if that's not where the enemies are in the game, that's not going to make a whole lot of sense, unless that's just the way you want it. But that would probably be more like a 2D animation. How they kind of exploit like the stuff doesn't make sense, but it just looks cool, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making much sense there, but like there's more than just a look at method. There's like you can just specify literally the position, rotation, how big something is,
Okay.
and you can basically just tell it, you know, like literally you can just change any of these attributes at any time.
I just don't want it to get confused. You know? And then if you're, say, against 3 different enemies and they're all on the screen.
Yeah.
If it's automatically pointing at an enemy.
Well, you can specify which one. You could have a timed order or whoever's closer. Just whatever it is. You could check the direction of the view and see who's closer. I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do about it.
Okay. Awesome. So we should do that because I want to see it working. It sounds super cool. And simple. It would be awesome if it's really that simple.
What was the last thing you said?
I said it would be awesome if it's really just that simple. Just add that one script.
Some of it will be. And some of those scripts could be reusable for many game objects. Because it's not specific to a model. It's specific to what's up here. So any model that goes into Unity has a transform, so you can access it and change the transform.
I think it sounds like a good plan. So,
Well, yeah, I can go ahead and do the turret, and then I guess maybe show that next Saturday or something.
sure, sounds good to me. I will
Okay.
put it on the agenda.
If we can figure out this screen thing.
Well, hopefully between now and then, I'll be able to figure out exactly how it's supposed to work, so it's not so much guessing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Daniel, did you have anything else?
No. So, excuse me, it's just a little earlier.
No worries. Okay. Well, I think we're good then, unless you have anything else, Aaron.
I did want to mention one thing. I don't know if James had seen it or not, but if he wants to look into it, because I don't know the benefits of Visual Studios for the TFS versus like Unity, because I guess they tried something in 2016. They had a beta version for it, and I don't think it's beta anymore. I think it did really well. But it's Unity Collaborate or something like that. You have to pay per person.
You have to do that now anyway. I think that's all of them. You have to pay per person.
Yeah, but this one you can like specifically like it looks super easy. Like you just grab say a script or whatever, and you're supposed to like right click it, and then there's a thing that comes up. If my computer will do that, there we go. So it'd say like collaborate up here, and then you click send basically, and that's it. And then you can write a little message about it, and they have backups of everything. I'm not saying we should use it. I kind of just stumbled upon this, but I don't know if James would be interested in looking into it.
I'll ask him if that's one of the ones he looked at. I know he looked at a lot of them.
Okay.
So,
It's a fairly new thing because they don't really advertise it. It just happened to pop up on Unity when I made a new project the other day. So
okay. Yeah, I'll mention it to him. See.
Okay.
See something new. Who knows? So.
Oh, there was one more thing.
Okay.
I had mentioned it in the team chat, but I don't know if anybody else was interested in it. But I was thinking it might be a good idea, and I don't know, maybe we have something like this that I just missed on the site, but to do like a bug report section.
Yeah,
So-
that's something that we are trying to incorporate into the new design. We're trying not to spend too much time on the site that's running right now because that slows us down getting the new one out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that is definitely on the list of things to incorporate in the new design.
Okay. Because yeah, it would be a lot easier to keep track, especially if we have like multiple scripts messing up or whatever it is.
Yeah, that is one of the one of the list.
But yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Okay. Well,
All right.
I think we're good to go then.
Okay. Oh, I gotta exit this, don't I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for showing up, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem. A lot of respect for what you do, Aaron.
Thank you.
Right?
For looking into there.
That's a lot of learning.
I was just like, okay, man, no, I can't do it. Nah, I knew I wasn't gonna make it, but I just didn't have enough foundation. I in the beginning I thought, okay, maybe I can just find out exactly, and then maybe find something to copy paste, but I couldn't figure it out.
Well, you'll get it. It just takes some practice, and like I've had to drop projects I've done personally several times because I run into an issue, and then like over the years it just kind of starts making more sense collectively, and then
Right. It's just a little outside of where I normally sit. I either make like graphics motion graphics, or and the way animations for video are made is that, you know, I'm keyframing to time, and you know, I'm making handles and things like that you don't need those in game animation, because, and the reason I need those handles is because you want to grab things quickly, but everything's keyframed, you know, with time, whereas this, it's connected to the controller, and I don't really quite have a paradigm for the for what drives the animation exactly. You know, is it distance or
I know
position?
exactly what you mean. That's one of the reasons I try to stay out of Mecanum when I can.
All right.
I prefer Blender, hands down. I would much rather. And not to mention, I mean, it seems like they pump out features way faster than Unity does. And they seem compatible, so I've never had issues with them. I mean, sometimes there's certain ways you have to do something, but I think it's a lot better than Mecanum is.
If you use Mecanum, don't you set your animation up in Blender though? I mean, I'm just not getting. I just don't get how it works together.
Basically, the bones that you import, we don't have a rig in here, do we? I'm pretty sure we don't, but
I didn't make one.
well, like the bones and stuff are imported, like the entire armature. You can choose to import it with the blend, like when you export it to an FBX file, and that literally shows up in Unity. And so, like when you animate bones in Blender, when you import that, you can have the animation file, but if the armature is not there, it won't do anything. So it's reading it somehow, and with Mecanum, it's like a step up from that. And I believe there's actually a way you can like rig characters in Mecanum. It's all kinds of complex, dude. I don't know.
Yeah,
They're
definitely.
Right now they're trying to play catch up, and so anybody that knows, say, what's happening, you know, nowadays, you know, like Blender and Maya and stuff like that. The process, they're taking all that, and you're basically having to relearn all of it, like their way.
Right.
So it's too much.
Yeah, I use Maya a lot. So
yeah. But see, if you were to go from any of those 3D programs, for the most part, they're not that much different. You know, they're very similar. However, if you go into Unity for that, it's really weird.
Right. So my world is turning upside down. Blender I can relate to a little bit, but I just started using it, so I don't even know how to keyframe. I was looking at the keyframing, and it's completely different. You use in Maya, I would use it's in waves, you know, and so you plot those waves on a graph, one for each plane that you're, you know, dealing with. But so I don't really know how to even get around in that yet, but that part I could learn and relate to if I'm keyframing to coordinates in time. But if I'm, you know, but I'm lost when it comes to like a game controller at the moment. I mean, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's always something you could learn.
Right. I just have to acquire it, but it's not something I can acquire in 5 minutes or something.
No, it'll take a while. But
I like.
I will tell you one thing though, YouTube. I kind of hate YouTube, but I've learned a lot from there, just from all kinds of different stuff over the years. I mean, you get stuck on something, you know, you Google it, learn some of the literature.
Right. Yeah, I constantly watch tutorials. So that, you know, I mean, you just have to anymore. Everything's always being upgraded, and you know, there's always a new problem.
Yeah.
You know, to tackle. So
Hell,
Yeah,
textbooks don't get updated that often.
right. Yeah, but I have had some bad luck with some of my tutorials. It's like, why am I still watching this guy? It's 10 minutes and I haven't got anywhere, you know.
Yeah. It's like
But-
1 out of every 5 is actually going to help you.
Yeah,
But they are there.
that's about right.
All right, guys. Well, I got to run away here, so I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. Do y'all need to set up times to meet to work on anything with the animation and the 3D modeling?
We could probably just do it through the team chat if we got a question or whatever. We can.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing. There's
Ow.
nothing. I don't have any. Yeah, I don't have any problems as far as just the modeling goes, and I think I have everything set up so that it's efficient for the next guy down the pike. But
Yeah.
Well, we'll work it out as we go, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'll definitely have to be that way, I think.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. Thank y'all for coming.
Yeah.
okay.
We were good and productive. So I'm looking forward to seeing something next Saturday.
Okay.
And
I'll try to get that turret done.
Okay. Well,
All right. I'll be
uh,
turning that. I'll be turning that in pretty soon here. And have a good day.
You too.
You too.
All right.